Hello, how are you? How's everything? One more live with our CELTA tutors, Paul Manson and Mason and Amanda Gamble. And I think we already had a live last Monday, or last, no, Thursday. Was Thursday? Yes, today is Monday. Our second live in series about CELTA online. However, we do provide CELTA face-to-face as well. And for today, we'll be talking about how can we prepare for the CELTA online. So some basic things that are to prepare, how to prepare for online and offline. But today will be more focused on how to prepare for the online CELTA. And welcome, Paul, welcome, Amanda. How are you doing? How's everything?
Yeah, fine, thank you.
Everything's good. Thank you very much.
You perfect. Well.
How about you,
And
Marta? Are you good?
yeah, all good. Um, yes.
Good.
And if you got any question popped in your mind, you can just drop it in the comments section, and we'll be glad to answer you. And we already got some prepared questions we can start with. So if we can go to the first one and say, what are the technical issues to think about before you're doing an online CELTA?
Yeah, okay. I mean, you need to be familiar with the platforms we're using on the course, basically. And the two main platforms are Zoom and Google. Um, in terms of Zoom, if you haven't, as a teacher or even as a member of the general public, used Zoom before, you really need, before the course starts, to familiarize yourself with Zoom. How can you do that? Well, first of all, make sure that you download Zoom and make yourself a Zoom account, and practice. Have a look at Zoom, play around with it a little bit. Um, Maybe use it with your family or colleagues so that you can actually practice using the features. Um, the main features for you to think about that you will need on the course are one, how to set up breakout rooms. So how you can send students to separate rooms to work in pairs or in groups. Those are called breakout rooms on Zoom, and you need to know how you set up breakout rooms. You need to know how to share the screen so that you can show pictures, or you can show a PowerPoint presentation or whatever when you're teaching. How you share sound, because again, the sound is not always very good quality unless you make sure that you have specifically said that you want to share sound. And another feature of Zoom that you really need to be sure you're familiar with is the chat box and how the chat box works. Because again, you can use that with your students to um, get answers to questions, or get them to complete an exercise and send you the answer in the chat box. So basically, you need to know how to use breakout rooms, how to share the screen, how to share sound, and how to use the chat box, and any other features you fancy. There are lots of useful videos on YouTube that you can look at. Russell Stannard, in particular, has some very useful videos on YouTube about how to use Zoom, lots and lots of them. So have a look at some of those if you're not familiar, and they will be very, very helpful actually. So yeah, I mean, Zoom, you need to be familiar with Zoom and Google. Do you want to talk about Google, Amanda?
Okay, all right. So we use Google Classroom as our main platform through which we share information with you. It's not such a big deal if you're not particularly familiar with Google Classroom. It's before the course starts, but it is useful if you are familiar with Google Drive and how Google Drive works, and also Google Documents, because sometimes we'll ask you to share Google Documents, or we'll share Google Documents with you. So if you know kind of how those work and how to set them up, that would be useful. And also like other features of the Google Suite. So for example, Google Forms maybe is something to have a look at. You might want to, as part of one of your lessons, use a Google form with the students. And of course, you can just share the links with them through the chat box. Another useful feature of Google is Google Jamboard, which is a way of sharing different. You can share text, you can share pictures, and you can have multiple screens within Jamboard. So you might want to get students, for example, working on different screens. So if you're familiar with some of these features of Google, also that will make your life a little bit easier on the course. Because what's important on the CELTA is that we're teaching you how to be teachers. We're not teaching you how to use Zoom and Google. We're kind of expecting that you've got some of that know-how already. Of course, it will improve a lot as you go through the course. But if you've got a heads up and you've got some familiarity with Zoom and with Google, the features of Google, it will help you a lot on the course.
Is it worth saying also that it's a good idea to have a Gmail account, because
absolutely,
some people had problems with Hotmail and Yahoo and things like that.
Yeah. I think even though Google Classroom will allow us to use other email addresses, it likes Gmail. So yeah, if you set up a Gmail account before the course, then it'll just make everything much easier. Yeah.
The other technical thing to think about is the practical technical considerations. So you do need to have, you need to work on the course through a laptop, at least. It could be a desktop, but most people, I think, have laptops nowadays. So you need a laptop. You can't do the course or participate through a phone. In theory, you could through a tablet, but it's more difficult and not advisable. So really, you need to make sure you have a laptop to participate, and you need essentially to have a good internet connection, obviously. You need
We're smiling when we say that, but yes.
Sometimes we don't always have our internet connections, so a bit unreliable. So you need to make sure you've got a good internet connection, and you need to make sure you have backup, because life being what it is, the internet, the Wi-Fi can go off, the electricity can go off at the least opportune moment, and has done with me as well. So you need to make sure you have a data package, a good data package on your phone, which you can then tether your laptop to should you have a problem with the Wi-Fi or a problem with your electricity. And then the other issue, of course, is kind of hedging into the more practical considerations, but you could consider headphones. Much how you're wearing headphones at the moment. The headphones reduce the noise around you, so to a certain extent. So if you're in a noisy environment, i.e. you've got traffic outside your window, or various
children running around.
Yeah, well, we talk about children in a moment, but yeah, or a cat.
Or cats.
It reduces the background sound to a certain extent. So you could consider headphones. I personally don't use them, but I'm in a fairly quiet environment. So yeah, I think those are the main technical things to think about, really. Anything to add on that?
Don't think so. I think you've covered everything. Yeah.
Perfect. Good. Thank you. Well, so last live we kind of tackled the idea of, or we talked about how the course is intensive, but we didn't go like for more details about this. So if we can go for this live, like how the course is intensive. especially if it's online. But we
Um,
do provide it as well as face to face. So I think there are some similarities between here and there. Some things special for maybe for online.
yeah, I mean, related to the intensity really is some of the practical considerations, things you need to think about um, sorting out before you start the course. Um, do you want me to go ahead with this, Amanda, or do you want to talk about those?
I can do it if you like.
Okay, all right.
um, so, I mean, of course, some of you who are going to be doing this course might be mums with kids. So it's important to make sure that you've got your kids sorted out. You know, you've got someone to look after them. Of course, this is the same for online and for a face-to-face course, but in many ways it's maybe more important on an online course because chances are, of course, the kids are going to be in the house where you're doing the course. So you need to make sure that, yeah, you've got someone to look after them and that they kind of understand that, you know, mummy's going to be busy and she can't be there all the time with them. So I think, yeah, particularly something to think about if you're a mum. Also, it's important to think about, yeah, where physically you're going to do the course. So yeah, you need to have a room in your house where you're going to be able to close the door and close out everybody so that you can be, you know, in peace and quiet. There's nothing worse if we can hear, you know, like, yeah, all different background noise from the outside, or yeah, children screaming or whatever. Okay, it's going to happen from time to time, that's fine. But if it's a constant problem, then obviously that's going to make life difficult. So yeah, making sure that you've got a good room in your house and a room where you can feel comfortable. I mean, okay, we've seen people do this course kind of sitting on their beds, which might not be the ideal place really to be, even though it might be comfortable. You're probably better off if you've got like a good, decent kind of office chair where you can sit and be comfortable, because you are going to be sitting in front of the screen for up to about 8 hours. Okay, on and off, it's not going to be a solid 8 hours, but basically 8 hours in front of the screen. So yeah, you need to be comfortable, but you need to be in a place where, yeah, you're not going to be kind of too comfortable, maybe. Connected to that, I guess, because you're going to be sitting in front of the screen for 8 hours. You've got to think about whether you've got any health issues that might affect your ability to be in front of the screen for 8 hours. So, for example, if you've got back problems, then that could cause you an issue, because obviously you're going to be sitting for a long time. Maybe if you've got eye problems also. I sometimes suffer. In fact, now I can feel my eyes are very sore from looking at the screen. So that's something to think about.
Yeah, I mean, health issues.
Yeah, do you want to continue, Paul?
Yeah, sure. I mean, no, I think health issues in general are important. I mean, you need to be sure that you're going to be healthy and able to cope with the course. It's an intensive course, as we said. Even if you're doing it over a longer period, it's still quite a lot of work to do. So you need to be sure that you don't have any health issues. We'll get into that. And another one that you didn't really mention really is how you cope with stress. Because it's important that you're able to cope with stress, you're able to manage your time effectively, and deal with deadlines and deal with that kind of thing. I mean, in terms of time management, it's probably a good idea before the course starts to look at your week and think about how you're going to, what time you're going to put aside to do assignments or to do lesson preparation, to do background reading. When are you going to do these things? If we think about the course itself, you've got about 120 hours on the course of contact, which in this case means 120 hours actually online with your tutors or doing your teaching or observing your colleagues teach. We'll go into more detail next session about the timetable itself, but online you've got 120 hours. In addition to that, you've got at least another 80 hours of time you need to do the things we've talked about, like writing assignments, writing lesson plans, background reading, etc. So it's about 200 hours altogether, if not more, over the period of the course that you need to set aside. So think about how you're going to manage your time, particularly if you have family commitments like children or husbands or wives that you have to accommodate as well. And it's very useful to make sure they're forewarned that actually for the period of the course, you're not really going to be available to them. Much as you would want to be, you're not going to have the time really to spend with them that you would hope to do. So intensity of the course, as you said, Mukhtar, 120 hours face-to-face, plus at least another 80 hours of working on your own. And something we need to stress really on an intensive course, particularly, you can't do any other work. So please, if you're registering for an intensive course, don't think that it's possible, even online, to do a couple of hours of private teaching in the evening or so on. It's not. Your full focus is needed for the whole of the course. You can't really do anything extra at all during that period. Yeah. Good. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I just pick up on again about the stress thing, how you cope with stress? I mean, the course is a stressful course. There's a lot of work to do. There are a lot of things to think about. We're throwing many different things at you every single day. So the course itself can be quite stressful. But if you've got other things going on, like say family things going on, or or if you've got any health problems, or if you're struggling with the technology, then that's going to add extra pressure and extra stress on you. So this is why we're saying it's really important to make sure these things are sorted out. Get ready, get as much practice in before the course as you can with the technical stuff. Sort out all your family commitments, tell them, that's it, I'm not available, and make sure you're as healthy as you possibly can be.
Perfect, great. So I think till the moment you summed up the things we discussed at the beginning of live. So yeah, perfect, good. And if we move to the next one, so now I got ready. I'm free. I'm totally free for the course, and I got myself ready with using technology, and hopefully no health issues or problems. So the next step is, well, especially for people who didn't teach before, this is their first time to do an English teacher training or to a teacher professional development course. How much do I need to know about the language before the course, like the minimum knowledge I should have?
Okay.
I'm looking at you for one.
Well, you need a minimum knowledge, really. You need to know things like parts of speech, the names of tenses. When I say parts of speech, I mean, is this a noun? Is it a verb? Is it a pronoun? Or things like that. Different tenses, and think a little bit about why we use them, when we use them, not just the names of tenses. You can do quite a lot by looking at course books for students. Look at the course books and think, okay, what is being taught here? What language is being taught here? How is the course book teaching it? How does this piece of language actually work? So look at some course books for beginners, elementary, intermediate level students, whatever, just to actually familiarize yourself with how we look at language from a student's point of view. And obviously, again, grammar books, actual books that are intended for students, perhaps for advanced students, but look at some grammar books for students, and this will help you with the names of tenses, the names of structures in English, really. What else in terms of language?
I think one thing that's useful to do is, for example, like when you're listening to something, like you're watching a film or something, maybe, that you start kind of thinking about, why did they say that like that? Why did they choose that particular tense in that particular situation? Or if you're reading something online or whatever, again, you could start questioning and thinking about, so they've used that tense there. Why have they used that tense? And if you start asking yourself those questions, it will get you into the habit, of course, of asking those questions. Because, of course, as language teachers, it's very important that we can think about, why is this tense or this structure or this vocabulary being used in this particular context? So that can be one way to kind of get you into that habit, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's just raising a general awareness of language, I think, really, because, as fluent speakers or as native speakers, we don't necessarily think about the language we use very much. It just comes to us fairly naturally, automatically. It's getting that idea of thinking about language.
And actually, that's a good point, Paul. I mean, okay, we know that teachers coming to this course are a mixture of non-native speakers and native speakers. So generally, with non-native speakers, because they've learned the language themselves already, they've got some of that awareness, or they can kind of question language a little bit more. With native speakers, particularly if they've never taught language and they've never set foot inside a classroom before, then that's probably one of the biggest challenges of becoming a language teacher is knowing how to analyze language and how to become aware of it. So again, if you're a native speaker and you've never really thought about your language and why we say what we say and how we say it, it's worth doing some research before applying for a CELTA course. Otherwise, it's going to be really difficult.
Yeah, so the knowledge is somehow a very supportive thing you need to have before you just jump into the course. So one of the main streaming resources for knowledge is reading. So is there any background reading a CELTA candidate can do before or during the CELTA course?
Yeah, I mean, we will always, when you're doing the course, we will be recommending books to you all the time, or books and websites and things that you can refer to during the course. Before starting the course, there are a couple of books that we can strongly recommend, and these are kind of key books that all CELTA centres will recommend to you. So one of them is called Learning Teaching by Jim Scrivener. There are various different editions of the book. If you can get hold of the latest edition, obviously that will be the most useful one. But even if you can't, even if you can get some of the older editions, it will still useful to have. And the other main book we can recommend is called The Practice of English Language Teaching by Jeremy Harmer. So both books are kind of similar to each other in terms of content. You might find maybe the Scrivener book, Learning Teaching, a little bit more practical than the Hammer one. The Hammer one's maybe a slightly more theoretical, but actually the two together then complement each other very well. So in terms of getting some background knowledge about teaching, these two books are really useful.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, good. So we got lots of saying hi. That was the
Yes,
beginning
I
of
was just
this
looking at the
live.
comments.
Yes.
Yeah. Hi to
And
Imad. I do remember Imad very well from Riyadh.
good. Well, I think this is what we have from our side as questions. And I didn't get that much or that many questions in the 2 days, but welcome, Thomas. The one.
Yeah, welcome, Thomas.
Right. Okay. And yes, I think that's it for today. Anything to add?
Oh, maybe I can just very quickly answer one of Thomas's questions. He's asked, is internet connection essential?
Uh-huh.
Yes. Yeah, if you don't have if you don't have any internet, then obviously you can't do the course. But it has to be a good connection because you're going to be online all day. So you need to make sure that you're sorted with the best internet connection you can get your hands on.
Yes, I see. Perfect. Even because the sessions are online, the delivery of
Yeah,
your
I mean everything. So
so
yeah.
maybe even if it's face to face, you need to have sometimes good internet connection, or at least
Well,
internet
yeah,
to
exactly.
submit assignments or something.
Yeah.
Well. I think we've come to an end for today's live, and that was the second one, and waiting for the third, maybe on next Thursday. Sorry, yeah, Thursday. Yeah, because
This
Yeah.
coming Thursday.
Yeah, okay.
We'll be here, Mokhtar. I'm sure you will. Thursday.
So days are all a lot of work, and days kind of similar. That's why I lost tracking.
Yeah, I know.
But anyway, this week, inshallah, we're gonna have the third live. And many thanks, Paul. Many thanks, Amanda. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mokhtar.
And thanks for the
You're
audience. And
welcome.
see you one more time later.
Yeah.
Have a lovely
Okay,
evening.
take
Bye.
care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.